So good afternoon, colleagues, and maybe for some of you, good morning. So welcome to today's webinar. So let me switch on the live transcript first. Yes. So thanks all for joining today's webinar. So virtual reality for teaching learning assessment. I am Dr. Leon Lee from the University of Hong Kong. We are so honored to have three speakers to talk about their shared experience on the VR for TNL today. So we have Professor Ho, and also Dr. Now, as well as Dr. Hu. So from three universities, so from City University of Hong Kong, from the Chinese University of Hong Kong, as well as University of Hong Kong to share experience. And you can see from all three universities, they are also from different backgrounds. So from liberal arts and social science, from biomedical science, and from education. So we are so honored to have three speakers today. So just before we start the webinar, so let me spend a little bit time, 1 or 2 minutes to talk about this project. So this is actually a e-teaching for you project, actually funded by UGC, VTL virtual teaching instruction grant for 4 universities to run webinars, workshops, conference, and to conduct some research. So on supporting teachers for the next stage virtual instructions and virtual teaching. So we have different webinars before, so on copyright, on AI for TNL, and also something else. And today we was honored for this semester. We have the theme on virtual reality. So once maybe last year, so start from Facebook, we have so many discussions on virtual reality, metaverse, etc. And that's why we would like to invite experts to talk about VR in TNL. So today we will start the part 1. So we have 3 speakers, and then for next week, we also another 3 speakers to talk about virtual reality for TNL. So if you are interested, feel free to click the links and check our email or email to us for the registration. I will put the link later on also. Okay, so today we will talk about 3 cases from 3 speakers on secondary schools using virtual reality for heritage discovery. And then the second one, Dr. Lau will also talk about the case in CHK, and then Dr. Hu also on heritage education, but on asking students to create VR by themselves. So I believe for some of you, actually you are from secondary schools in Hong Kong or in Southeast Asia. So I believe that these several cases will be very helpful for you. We noticed that actually we have 1,300 registrations today. Some of you may join through Zoom. Some of you may watch the YouTube live stream. So feel free to share the videos to others later on. And that's all I would like to share. So maybe maybe I can pass the mic to Professor Ho, and then to talk about his case on the secondary students using VR for heritage discovery. So let me pass the mic to Professor Ho.
Thank you so much. Could you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So thank you again, Leon, for inviting me and my team to present our pilot project with some secondary school. Let me share my screen with all of you. And so, second screen here. Could you see my screen okay?
Yes, I can see the screen. Yes, thank you.
So, so this is actually the a project that we did with some secondary schools. My name is Alfred Ho from City University of Hong Kong, and I know that we have limited time, and so I want to share with you some of the key lessons. And so, so let me just quickly summarize what this project was about and what we learned. It was a multidisciplinary effort between we at the Public Policy Department and also the CityU Chief Information Officer's Office, and also the Chinese and History Department in our university, as well as some colleagues from computer science. And so we also work with Sam Shui Po District Office, which is a district in our area. It has about 400,000 residents in this area, and also 4 secondary schools. And we received some funding from Sam Shui Po District Office to do this project. So let me give you the punchline in case we ran out of time. So number one is that we find that VR tools, virtual reality tools, can be applied in fields beyond the typical computer science technical fields. With good support, VR tools can be managed by faculty members and students who are not computer science and engineering majors, like some people like me, who actually know a little about computer science or computer stuff, but not really a programmer type of person. And also VR really will open up new possibilities of learning and also will stimulate some learning interest. So I will show you some evidence for that later. So we actually have a project website. And so let me actually go to that. And you see, actually, before I show you the VR tool, we actually have a project website that actually show the project, and there are actually different students' results here that you could actually click on and then show, look at what they have done. But I want to actually show the video here. Let me make sure I share my sound. And so this is a video that talked about the project, and I would pause in part of it so that I could explain some of the Cantonese explanation. So.
我哋呢一組係深水埗360嘅主題就係食，相信大家都聽過民以食為天。深水埗區就正經歷咗唔同年代嘅變遷同埋洗禮，雖然有好多舊店鋪都因為咁而消失或者被淘汰，與此同時亦都有好多嚟自世界各地或者本土新式主義嘅餐廳進駐喺深水埗區唔同嘅街頭，為深水埗區帶嚟一番新景象。
So sorry that it was in Cantonese in case you couldn't understand it. Basically, a student explained that our project actually focused on different themes. One team or some teams actually focus on food of some shape or area. Another team focused on some buildings, also different gods or temples, that kind of historical heritage. And some are focused on housing and social transformation of the area.
都因為喺今次嘅活動入邊，我哋嘅工作量都較為龐大，而且要適應我哋以前冇接觸過嘅360相機等技術，我哋每個人都需要做到分工合作，先至可以共同應付。譚之同學喺今次活動入邊全面發揮咗對於 IT 嘅知識，喺電腦技術方面出咗唔少力，而黃雲健同學就喺考察方面俾咗好多唔同嘅建議以及方向。我哋都有及於此，得悉咗好多平時較少接觸而好有歷史同埋文化價值嘅地方。
So here, the student basically explained that they actually had teamwork within themselves. So some actually handled technical tasks. Some people actually had to do the research about the area. Some people actually did the literature review or historical document research, etc. So they actually did the teamwork to produce a video.
我哋作品最特別嘅地方就係啱先所提到，我哋自己拍片嚟到去介紹屋邨，更加唔少得嘅就係仲有我哋自己製作同埋錄音嘅鬼故故事。唔知大家有冇一種毛骨悚然嘅感覺呢？但係其實喺一啲民間傳說同埋屋邨鬼故入邊，其實都體現咗好多當時嘅歷史同埋市民嘅生活。我哋篩選咗一啲合適嘅屋邨鬼故事，希望能夠從一個理性以及多元化嘅角度帶大家了解不一樣嘅深水埗。
So that student actually then explained they actually did all kinds of work to find out the history and actually did also local field trips to actually talk about the video. So maybe here I will just pause and I will actually show one of the project using the VR tool. So if you actually, I have my assistant here and Jeffrey is actually holding the VR camera. Let me just show you what it is like before I. So you see me. Let me actually not do the virtual background. So Jeff, you see Jeffrey is sitting right beside me, and he is now wearing the VR. And so let me actually now share screen and show you actually what he is seeing through the VR. Right. So you see that. Can you see the VR? Right. So you can see, and so you could actually go look at the sky and look at different. And so you really could enjoy, really almost kind of like you are in the middle of it. Of course, you only see in converted screen, but if you actually wear the VR too, you could really see you're in the middle of it. And you could actually have them click to some information, for example. So you could actually look at that particular about that area, and you could walk in. So and then walk in, and so and then look at what's around you. Look up to the top of the ceiling of the building, and then you see different design of those temples. So this is just one example how you actually immerse yourself into that area. And so the student actually use this to actually do a lot of research, and you see a lot of information they actually dig out from the research projects to find out the history of this area, or the history of this project, or the history of the temple, or the housing project, etc. So it was actually quite interesting project for them to go through. So let me just wrap up by showing you some key lessons. And so let me actually now share. So just to wrap up, you may say, okay, what impact has it made? So we actually did a survey of the students and asked them what they have learned. And so we actually have enough questions in that survey study, but here are some of the highlights, right? First of all, did they feel that it was very difficult to handle the 360 camera and some of the technologies? Most of them strongly disagree or disagree. So clearly, these are some of the students who were art major, history major, some of them, and they actually felt they were competent enough to handle the technologies. And then we asked them whether they actually learned something interesting about the history and the transformation of the society through this project. And most of them, the majority of them actually said that they indeed agree or strongly agree that they learned something interesting about the community. Another question we asked them is what technical stimulation they got out of this. And so many of them actually say that they actually have become more interested in the development and application of new media technology. And so finally, ask them, because we actually look at it as a potential to really enhance civic education in Hong Kong. And so we asked them whether that the project helped them cherish the economic and social development of Hong Kong, and looking back on all the history and transformation, and whether they feel the development was not easy. And so they cherish it more. And again, the majority of them, overwhelming majority of them actually felt that way. And so we believe that it was actually quite successful from their perspective, really combining technologies with civic education, with some of the social and historical learning through these VR technologies. So, so again, if you have any questions, feel free to email us, and we're happy to share our experience further with you. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Professor, for the sharing. So I see there are a lot of inquiries about the certificate. So if you need certificate, please send us an email. So instead of posting the email in the chat room, so you can send us email, we can provide you the certificate later on. And there are also some discussions, but we can have some Q&A at the end after all three presentations. So thank you. So maybe we can pass to Dr. Lau for the sharing from the UHK cases. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Leo. So let me share screen. I hope it could be seen clearly to everyone. So greeting from Anne from CHK. I'm from the School of Biomedical Sciences, Faculty of Medicine. And my experience today to share with all of you is about our experience in developing a few VR applications for the students in the Faculty of Medicine, which include basically different program students, because we teach basically preclinical sciences for the professional programs and also for the science program. So here we would like to share humbly a few small projects we have completed and also ongoing at this point. So just want to have a very brief introduction of my team. We are from the Division of Education from School of Biomedical Sciences, which basically composed of a big critical mass of lecturers that of different ranks that we have common interest in teaching and also developing, say, using different pedagogies in our teaching. So our expertise, apart from, say, developing, of course, courseware that we basically teach anatomy, biochemistry, pharmacology, and also physiology, which are quite unique to, say, programs in the Faculty of Medicine, because these are basically more focusing on the human function. So unlike what the previous professor just shared, that he actually very engaging students to develop a VR application from the outside of the school, that we do in the reverse. We try to bring the students into the human body, which we can hardly be seen, okay, by using our bare eyes. Our strength, okay, is actually in the past year that we have experience in developing different animation courseware, but we find there are deficiency in terms of these courseware, because kind of like they're more 2D in format, and also if the students really want to experience the human body, we hope to bring them into an immerse mode. So here are some challenges for us, say, in terms of the preclinical application, and it comes up with the idea of developing such a VR series of courseware is because of the student diversity and heterogeneity. They are from the different background, even though they are all coming to study, say, professional program or say under the same faculty, but they are of different background and they may study the same topic from different perspectives. And sometimes the cell and molecular, concept can hardly be seen, hardly be understood. In particular, for students who may not have really substantial, say, knowledge about biology and also chemistry. So we hope to translate a complex concept in motion with the use of the VR. And what's more is that because of the COVID, that basically many classes were suspended, and also with the fears of, say, like we don't want to spread the virus when we teach the student to handle animals. So we try to come up with some, say, media so that the students can have a taste of how to handle the animal in the laboratory, and what they should do, what kind of precautionary measures that they should do before entering into the laboratory, so that we can give them a taste without sacrificing or, say, harming the animals, that with the potential risk of spreading the virus. So here actually there's a group of VR projects that we have developed and also being used as of today, including some of that we have actually put them into, say, the Science Festival, which is the annual event hosted by the Hong Kong Science Museum, but because of the renovation projects that they have suspended. But back to a few years ago, we have developed the forensic science school, that we construct a crime scene and then allow the students to use a tablet like iPad and also a mobile phone to actually use the augmented reality to try to figure out, okay, who is the murderer or something. And also we have developed the Human Body 360, which is basically for students to immerse into the human structure with the use of the 3D scanner to scan the human, say, body structure using a plastinized specimen. And we use the Found AR app to so that the students can really scroll over like a over-the-counter drug, and with the application, they can know the structure of the drugs immediately by using a specific application that we developed for the purpose. About ChemLab AR with a similar, say, phenomenon that students can actually easily screen the video that we prepare for operating a particular application or equipment. And we spent most of the time in developing the digestive VR and also the VC, which are the two biggest products that we have did so far in terms of the VR. So I would like to show you a very short video about a few projects that we have I've just mentioned earlier. In particular, the mini projects. To give you an idea of what's happening for the applications. So this is the Human Body 360. So the students can basically immerse into the, say, the rib cage and look at the structure. Forensic science school, we construct a crime scene for the students. The good thing is that even with the very basic setup, not using the laboratory, that we can still construct the crime scene. So this is the Panadol that we can buy from the drugstore, and then they can scroll over and look into the structure of the drug by using an application that we built for the purpose. And this is the biochem lab. Seems like it is a video, but at least the students can use the application to scroll over the equipment that they can get a video. So I hold on at this point and introduce more about this digest VR thing. So for the digest VR, the major challenges that we would like to address is basically the student diversity and heterogeneity, and also the students would like to have their own autonomy, okay, to learn at their own pace, their own time, but not just say squeezing this at the class time to do say the these kind of say micro module things. So the good thing of this VR is that unlike the traditional animation that we have developed so far, that it can accommodate 3D structure instead of say usually the animations that we have developed for the say teaching is usually two-dimensional. And what's more is that we hope to have a one-stop solution so that not just teachers of a particular subject can make use of the platform, but instead we can encourage and promote the synergy of collaborative teaching by having a one-stop solution, and different teachers, different disciplines, different topics can also make use of the same platform. So we hope to satisfy multiple needs in common and make it user-friendly and also sustainable. At the same time, allow for flexibility, and students can study the structure function relationship of the human body and allow for, say, some concepts in motion. So what basically this VR, digest VR is about? The reason we choose the digestive system is because it is a topic that would be covered by teachers, say from the pharmacology aspect, also anatomy teacher, physiology teacher, and also with some biochemical concepts. So we try to use this as a pilot to construct a 3D environment, an immersive environment for the students. So just like the other VR app, that the students just only need to have a goggle and also even a cardboard to build the application. And the whole project was quite complex because we are from the Faculty of Medicine. We hope all the drawings would be anatomically correct, so that it is not just a cartoon or with very low resolution polygon. So we actually employ a quality medical illustrator to draw the structures of the digestive system. And at the same time, we have to build in the platform to integrate these graphics into the platform and to construct the interface for students and also for the teachers. So this basically is quite a complicated workflow. Now it shows you on the left-hand side, it shows you a very short, say, animation on, say, let me go back to say, sorry, let me stop sharing. To show you the structure of, say, this stomach. I just the point that disappear. What happened? Sorry for that. Okay. Oh, I couldn't play the video somehow. I don't know why. So let me see. I would like to use back the visible. Yes, this one. So it shows you the structure of the drawing that we have. Basically, it's really quite complicated because we really want to mimic the environment when, say, emergent. Imagine that you are a food molecule and then you go into the digestive system and then you try to look around the 360-degree, the structure of, say the GI tract. So this is just showing the part of the stomach and only half of the stomach indeed. And this is really sophisticated because we try to purchase the commercially available the graphics, but they are actually not in good quality. And this is the student interface that they could log in, and then they could choose different parts of the digestive system as an entering point. And for the teachers, apart from the fact that we set up the tube, okay, set up the structure for the students to view, we also allow the teachers to set up questions inside the digestive system at different points, so that, say, if we would like to teach about the ulcer in the stomach, say peptic ulcer, gastric ulcer, and we can basically build in the questions in that particular region, so that when the students are traveling like a food molecule along the digestive system, that they can hit certain button and then trigger their questions to appear, and they could answer the question. So this is the different sections that we have established, like the buccal cavity, and then to the intestine, stomach, intestine, and then to the, say, anus. So it's actually a full digestive system we have constructed. And this is the interface for the teachers to, say, set up their questions. And they could basically adjust the position of this little, say, triggering, so that the students can easily find their students. And we have some, say, icon to differentiate that these questions are related to anatomy, these questions are related to physiology, etc. So allow me to show you the video, okay, the roller coaster model, okay, of this digestive tract. So this is how the student will view. Of course, they should merge to a single view. This is a binocular view. So this is like roller coaster. This is the esophagus running into the stomach. And inside the stomach, you can see that those juice are basically the gastric juice, really like you're immersing to the gastric juice. And then go into the small intestine, and then we can choose other parts of the GI tract as well. So anytime they can move forward or go backward. So this is how they trigger the question. And we can even say setting up short videos. If they say answer the question wrongly, then we can allow a video to play back and the student can do a revision. So because of the time concern, that I may have to stop the video sharing here and then wrap up with a few slides about, say, our design. So let me see. I should stop. Okay. So apart from the fact that we can say set up questions, that we can also generate reports to review the participation of the student, to review the performance of the students, say in different set of questions. So the teachers can basically get a hold on, say, the progress of the students' learning using this application. And this is basically a class held during the COVID, and you can see that he was sitting in social distancing with the mask on, and the student on this, say, right-hand side. So basically, he is viewing that digest VR. Okay. The students, we did the evaluation to students, and basically quite a majority of the students actually use the VR for the first time in learning, in studies. And they quite feel excited, okay? And the major issue is that they feel some kind of, say, cyber sickness when, say, they move along with the digestive tract. And most of them could, say, master the motion of the activity for answering the question, etc. And over 80% of the students could immerse in the VR experience. So I would say that we are really glad to know that the students are quite enjoy the experience, and they found the design quite appealing. And of course, that there's still room to improve, like reducing the cyber sickness of the students. So the general advantages using digestive VR is that we find that it serves the purpose of say multidisciplinary teaching, but yet it's integrative. It is motivating, allowing students to engage in this learning environment, and then they feel fun for having this kind of application. And also, this is more sustainable. Instead of just developing the VR for a specific topic, that we basically could cover different aspects of the digestive system, the normal physiology, the pathology, etc. And we have also developed another application, which I just want to briefly show to you, is that because of the COVID, that as I mentioned earlier, that we still have to train the students to handle animals, but with the afraid of, say, spreading the diseases when they say go into the animal facility, because there are actually many expensive and also many long-term experiments that we don't want to say mess it up. So therefore, we have to devise a way to allow the students to have an experience on that. And therefore, we have developed a VC application, which is supported by another funding. So that students can actually immerse into the environment, like working in the really laboratory and try to handle the animal, like with injection of the drug, and also handling different scenarios, like when the mice was actually escaped. So what should they do? So here it gives you an idea of what is happening.
You can grab it on one hand or both, it's okay.
And I would say the student is in trouble, say if in a real situation that the mice shouldn't escape, and it will cause you in trouble. But it is okay so far that it is just in the virtual environment. So we're training students to move the cage and transfer the animals to a different cage and do the injection. But now later on you'll find that, okay, the whole cage basically, she couldn't handle the cage properly. So it is lucky that it's not in a real situation. So you can see the students is not just experience on her own, but actually the students nearby can also point out the problems that the students is handling the animal, so that they could have some peer learning concept here. So I think I have to stop here, and I wish you enjoy the video and also the presentation today. And I would like to send my appreciation to my colleagues of the Division of Education, in particular Dr. Florence Tan, Waika Wong, Rebecca Lee, Wilman, Waika Im, and also Sampon, and also Clea of CHK. So thank you for your kind attention.
Yes, thank you for the sharing. Yes, there are one or two some quick questions. So actually, Professor Point Chu from CHK, from Hong Kong, you asked how long do you need to develop, and how long do you need to develop this kind of VR apps?
Okay, so for the say forensic science go and also body 360, basically they're easier because we use some commercially available and also free platform to develop that. What we did is actually spending some time to adjust and also preparing, say, the so-called like the QR code, so the students can really augment using the application, and when we input the graphic to the application, and then the telephone, the mobile phone can really recognize that shape as the shape that we wish, like this is a plus thing, etc. So it really takes time to adjust the angle, to also import this information. But in general, those would be actually relatively easy. But for the digest VR, that basically we use more than, say, close to 2 years to have the first prototype to develop, because we have separated two things, like developing the Unity platform and also developing, say, the medical drawing. So it really takes time to integrate these into two, because they are from two different vendors. And yeah, we did spend some time on this.
Yes, thank you. And also one quick question from Melody Wong. So asking at the end of the presentation, the students will need to wear a bag. So is it a bag at the back? So is it part of the VR machines or?
A good question. That's a computer.
Yeah, just a computer. So the
Yeah.
students have to wear the computer, and then it's connected to the goggles, and then with all those, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Just like a gear for playing the video game.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yes. I also saw those also in some VR games. So students have to, participants have to wear the machine and the computer, and then to play those VR games. Okay. Thank you very much. So and then yes, let me pass the mic to Dr. Xiao Wu from CHK. So to also talk about heritage education, yes, in higher education. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Neil, and thanks everybody to be here. I'm Xiao Hu. I'm an associate professor in the Faculty of Education in Hong Kong U. So my research is mainly on multimodal information and the cross-cultural research. So here in my background, this is my lab. And today what I'm going to present is not only my own work, it's also the collective work from my lab. So if you want to know more about our work, you can go to this link. And in the meantime, I'd like to promote my next work, which is music listening. So if you are interested, you can scan this QR code to join our music experiment. So without further ado, let me share with my work on the on the VR creation. So I just found that our work is quite similar to Professor Hall's work just earlier presented. So but our target users are undergraduate students. So we actually use the VR creation in a domain called cultural heritage education. So it is to help our students to understand more about cultural heritage. So yeah, let's move on. We'll talk about some of the background on cultural heritage education and the pedagogical affordance of VR, which you might already know, but we will emphasize on the VR content creation. And then we have a couple of empirical studies that's already conducted to reveal the effectiveness of VR content creation in the classrooms. And then we will report some of the ongoing work. Hope you guys will be interested in it. First of all, cultural heritage education is about the history, cultures, and human identities, and it also involves the skills and experiences of some communities. Often cultural heritage education is part of other subjects like history or moral education, and more likely to be delivered in cultural institutions instead of schools, such as those museums and galleries, etc. Conventionally, the teaching and learning of cultural heritage is relying on verbalizing and assimilating information, like listening to lectures or writing field trip reports. But students actually perceive that those traditional methods is unidirectional, it's lack of interaction. So there is a call for interdisciplinary and student empowering pedagogies. Here, several examples of cultural heritage. The first one is so-called immovable cultural heritage, which are like heritage sites. This is the Forbidden City, by the way. And the middle one is so-called movable cultural heritage, like paintings and those artifacts. This is Mona Lisa, as everybody knows. And the last one is called intangible cultural heritage, which is basically knowledge and traditions. And this one is the Bang Festival in Hong Kong. Virtual reality has been very helpful in many different domains, like Dr. Lau has presented, and it can give more an immersiveness and more interaction and inspire more imagination from the students. VR in education has been used in formal, non-formal, and informal education settings. But for cultural heritage, usually VR has been used for restoring and reconstruction the heritage environment, like the Sensory Boot project presented by Professor Ha. And in our case, we actually looked at those international projects, including like Google Arts and also Digital Dunhuang. And in Hong Kong, we also have the History Museum. They also have some materials in VR. So as we can see, these are mostly in the museum and arena. And all of this can give us a lot more sensorial means to teach our students. But all of this has a limitation because in those cases, our learners are consumers of VR. So we wanted to adopt another approach, which actually enable our students to be creators of VR. So that's what we call VR content creation. And usually, so far, the creation of VR content has been relying on experts. They can be computer experts and instruction designers and so on. But we wanted to so-called democratize VR creation to let novice people like our students to be able to do the creation. In that case, then we look at the so-called low-cost authoring tools, which has the very famous Unity and also other platforms. But there are some gaps for existing work. First of all, it's time consuming and cost consuming to create a really good VR content. And also the novice learners, they need assistance and they need feedback during the creation process, which we have done some research to solicit the students' needs during their VR creation. And some tools are actually they're no longer available. Like a few years before, we have been using a tool called Story 360, and then it has been stopped since last summer, so we couldn't use it anymore. So then we think of now what should we do? Then after studying the literature and so on, we found the low-end VR content creation is promising, which involves a spherical panorama picture plus some text and audiovisual materials. Then it can make a pretty decent VR content. So in terms of technology, usually a cell phone, a computer, and a goggle, a pair of goggles would be sufficient. The goggle could be like in high end, as was shown in Dr. Lau's video, but it could be low end as well. Like we have been buying those paper carbon made goggles for the students to view their VR creations. Now let's talk about a couple of studies we have been done on evaluating the effectiveness of VR creation in classrooms. So this one is done actually in Hong Kong U. It's in part of our Common Core curriculum, which is general education. Those courses are open to all the undergraduate students in any faculty in Hong Kong U. As you know, we are a comprehensive university. That means our students are from different domains. So some of them are really good at technology. Some of them are not at all. So then in this class, we have been teaching the students to build up their own VR content to show those cultural heritage they're interested in. So these are some demographic of our students. Well, they come from different domains, and then most of them are from Hong Kong. But we also have students from other Asian countries like Indonesia and the Philippines, etc. So this is what we do to teach them how to create VR. We have 3 hands-on tutorials. Then the first one, we teach the students how to capture spherical panorama just using their smartphones. And then second one, to teach them to use the story360.org, this platform, to upload their spherical photo, and also to add in different components, different additional material like test label or additional pictures and so on. And the third tutorial, we teach them how to give constructive feedback to each other. So it's a peer learning process. And then the last one is the last stage. We don't have tutorial, but we ask the students to finalize their VR story based on the peers' feedback. So it's about 4 weeks. Then the students can make a pretty decent low-end VR story. And so this is some word cloud of their of the students' reflection during their learning process. They often say that they collect information, they will organize their different photos or script of narration and so on. After the creation process, we ask the students how do they feel about the experience, and then we analyze their feedback. So they mentioned the advantages of doing VR content creation. First of all, it's very the best part include the spherical photo making, and also it's a new and positive experience for them. And then they got to actually visit the cultural heritage because they have to make the photo, and then they appreciate the heritage more because they need to introduce the VR thing to an audience. And they feel that making VR story is not hard at all. So this is actually in accordance with Professor Hall's findings. It's actually, it looks very challenging, but in fact, it's not that hard. At the meantime, we also identify some challenges of creating VR by students. Again, like taking spherical photos, some students feel frustrated because using a simple phone, it cannot be ideal, like perfect. There has to be some places with black mark or something like that. But this is limited by the current technology. So we'll look for better technology in the future. And there are some challenges on operation, like how to put things together, and some features and functions, like the limited function of the VR editor, which was Story360, and they wish to have better tools, and they sometimes need to see an example of VR creation. And yeah, VR takes a lot of bandwidth. And there are some other issues unrelated to the technology, but like say when they visit a cultural heritage, they were not allowed to get in. But I think this is also a learning experience. That's the reality. You have to negotiate with different people and make arrangements, etc. Okay, so some implications. Well, students was anxious about technology intensive products, but it turns out to be fairly easy. And yeah, the content that we are looking for, we are making is easy and quite simple. And but at the meantime, the students got to learn some so-called 21st century skills, like the IT skill, and also the negotiation, collaboration, and peer review, communication, and so on. So this content creation process is an authentic task in terms of pedagogy, because we ask the students to find a heritage of their interests, so they really have the drive to present the heritage they like to real world audience. By the way, when the VR things are made, they are available to everybody in the world. As long as they have the URL, they can view. So that makes the students very proud of their work. The next work is about using eye tracking in the VR environment to evaluate the quality of the student-made VR. So, well, I will go through this very quickly because yeah, it gets to a little bit too intensive. So basically, we use this device, which is the HTC Vive Pro Eye, which has an eye tracker built in. Then we asked our end users to look at the student built VR. So as you can see, those are different kinds of cultural heritage, very beautiful, very attractive. And our users feels very happy to look at those things. But then at the meantime, we analyze their eye movement in the scene and then try to do some quantitative analysis. We wanted to say whether adding textual annotations will be effective or adding audio narrations will be effective in terms of helping the readers, the viewers, understand the cultural heritage, which is the goal of making this VR. So, and the results tell us some good findings, like the text labels are very effective to teach people, to introduce the heritage to ordinary people. And for audios, it's a little bit complicated. So it's better to be used as a guide, like an audio guide, just like in the museum. If you have an audio, it can guide you to look up, look down, look at your left and right, something like that. So yeah, this is our findings, and we will use that to further improve our instruction to students. So next time we will let them know, okay, so using text annotation will be effective. And so then we give recommendations on VR designs. Also, there are some theoretical implications, because by having both text and audio, we can verify some multimedia learning theory, like dual coding theory. And interestingly, we actually try to present the heat map of the eye movement like this one. We present this to the viewer. And then it's very interesting. They realize what they have been looking at during this VR experience. And it seems to be very useful for them to reflect their learning process. So we call it a heat map as feedback. Okay, so right now we are doing a few ongoing work. One of them is to actually design our own VR authoring tool, because the tool we used to use, Story 360, has been discontinued. So we end up with no tool to use. Then we end up developing our own. But this does have an advantage, because we have all the, we can record the behaviors of students during the learning process. So we can come up with learning analytics support to the students. So we can let them know like how much they have been progressing and comparing to the average of the class. And also there's some checklist for them to reflect what they have been done. And also some of, this is too small, but it's some statistics of the actual VR content. So how many video how many audio they have been uploaded, how many tests, annotation they have been put into their VR thing, things like that. So from those information, the students can get feedback to help them navigate during this making process. And we also are doing some further analysis of students' learning process, including the log, including the quantitative, their reflections, and also eye movement, and also their emotions. So that's basically our work. And we'd like to thank the Common Core, because that's our classroom, and also Tally, and also the library where we did our experiment, and also UC San Diego, because we actually learned how to do the eye tracking in UC San Diego. Okay, so that is my the end of my talk. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Yes, well, thanks, Dr. Hu, for the explanation. So we'll talk about those pedagogies, assessments, etc. And also evaluations. I also attended the conference last week, so there are lots of discussions on using learning ethics in the cultural heritage education. So thanks all. So if attendees, if you have any questions, feel free to use the Q&A for the voicing out your question. I actually get a few here. Maybe I pick several to discuss first. Maybe the first one is what kind of if the teachers or if the developers want to kickstart for the development, so what software should they use? For example, if they may not have a very big funding, etc. So what should they do? Any ideas?
Okay, maybe I can share a bit because we also started this way at the very beginning when we started the project, even though we have the funding, but we want to use that funding to develop the digest VR. So for the other mini projects, we use the open sources to develop, like the HP review. But this is also the downside of, say, developing VR is that the technology moving very, very fast. And therefore, the platforms could be evolved, and say if you have the information host on the platform, and if it's an open source, that it highly depends on the availability and sustainability of those platforms. So therefore, yes, we have to evolve, and also we need to say to keep on perfect the courseware so that it could be keep up to date. So that's the downside for some. Find that there is a question about using this big backpack computer, right? Yes, this is also an issue that we would like to evolve. Like we are thinking about whether we can make it a library of chips, like playing Switch, that basically we only need to use a very small chip to host the information instead of using a very big backpack. But of course, that requires money to develop as well. But it could be a direction that to make it more handy, more convenient for students to get the experience instead of having the queued up to for the computer setting.
Yes,
thanks for the question.
Yes, thank you. I remember for the most existing commercial products that we start to have the less bulky equipment. Yeah. So in particular, using not connecting the wires to the computer, but using Wi-Fi approach for the connection. Yeah, will be less bulky. Thank you. Maybe for
may I say something here?
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Leon. Actually, that's exactly the reason we come up with the idea of developing our own tool. So it's our intention to make the tool freely available to all schools, anyone around the world. As long as you are interested in using the low-end VR as I presented, which means a spherical photo plus some additional media materials. So if this kind of VR can satisfy your use, either your teachers or want your students to try to do the creation, then yeah, you can you can contact with me and use our system.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks.
For us, we actually did use some commercial platform to edit the VR video. We actually also bought some VR cameras that actually are not that expensive. I mean, but you do need to have some investment unless you actually go with Professor Hu's technology, the platform that she is building, which is fascinating. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, thank you. Another question from the audience is actually the VR applications after the COVID. So maybe everybody think about virtual instructions because of the pandemic, etc. But after the pandemic, they can go back to classrooms. And then the next step will be, how can we still leverage on VR tools for even in class or hybrid instruction?
So I'm sharing something that we are actually working on, and we welcome any suggestions or even partnership. You saw that we actually developed the Samshepo district. And so we had all this video about the area, working with secondary students. We're actually having a class working with college students now. In the future, we want to actually work with university in other areas. So that we will tour, for example, Amsterdam and Korea, Seoul, Korea, so that we actually have this kind of cross-cultural, cross-continental urban understanding of the area and work with different universities. And so I think this is a very good way to leverage international VR experiences.
May I say something here? I think if we talk about the creation, let students to create VR content, then it's not limited to like remote learning or face-to-face learning, right? So in any cases, as long as we can teach students how to do the creation. Another thing I want to point out is that what we say that going back to normal is actually not the old normal anymore. It's the new normal, right? So we don't know what will happen in the new normal, but it's very nice to have a tool in our toolbox that we can use to facilitate our teaching and learning.
Yeah, and also maybe I can wrap up like I think the tools at least design is not for the purpose of the COVID only. I think it could not make it sustainable. And from the perspective of say encouraging peer say learning, peer support, and also allow students to have some autonomy, because at least in the college or in the university, students will always feel like when we develop something for them, they will feel like it is an extra work. So how to make them feel that this is not an extra workload, and at the same time that motivate them to do that on their own. We don't need to have them to force them to be in class. I think it's becoming a trend for students to learn. Students spend more time to do their own learning instead of listening to the lectures in these.
Yes, thank you. So thank you for the sharing. So since time is limited, may I just pick one more question? Yeah. So for discussions is Sunny asked actually, may I ask the transferability of skills developed from VR environments to real world scenarios? So yeah. So Dr. Hu, do you have any ideas, or other analysts, do you have any ideas for this question?
Well, in our case, it's about cultural heritage education. So in fact, it's very transferable in real world. So that because the students needs to learn technology, needs to learn collaboration, needs to learn communicating with others, and also the basic thing like what they need to introduce their cultural heritage to people. So that's to the general public around the world. So that's something very useful in the real world. We call that storytelling, right? So that's kind of a buzzword, digital storytelling. So those are very important skill sets, not to mention the IT skill sets. Yeah.
First, I think, again, echo what Dr. Hu just said. I think for the social science or humanities, that kind of immersive technology could really go hand in hand with the real in-person learning. And so I think in the future, we should drop the idea that you are either face-to-face or the virtual learning. I think it will be a combined hybrid mode of learning. And I think it will enhance the result and effectiveness.
And for us, like training the specific techniques and also skills that having the VR actually can somehow substitute the use of space, real space, and also allow for, say, students to repeatedly doing the same task, so that it gives time for them to do same practices before they really work in the real environment. And I recall I presented, say, once in the hospital settings, that basically the doctors and nurses are quite appreciate that you say the training can really incorporate this kind of VR things, that basically they can reduce the number of, say, human introduced error in the real clinical settings, because they could be better trained before they go into the clinic.
Yes. Thank you. So yes, I think since so this is the end of today's webinar. Thanks for panelists sharing experience and have discussions. So I actually post the link as well as the evaluation form, as well as the registration form for next Monday webinar. So if you're still interested to know more about virtual reality in some other applications, so feel free to chat that webinar and give us some feedback on the topics that you are interested and we try our best to see if I can organize some related webinars. So again, thanks free of professors, Professor Hall, Dr. Lau, and Dr. Xiao, who so talking about sharing experience, very fascinating. Yes, and also of course thanks Paul as well as thanks Crusher for the coordination, so to make this event happen. So thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.